I'm Jeff Mack from Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, and I'm pleased to welcome Brendan McCorkle, the CEO of a company called CloudMine, to City Biz List. Welcome, Brendan.
The original idea for CloudMine was a business modeling class at Penn. My original partner Mo and I took two business ideas through the class. Very extensive assumption modeling. We built an overly complicated spreadsheet to test all of these assumptions, and CloudMine actually was the one that held up. So we ran with it for a little while, and we're building a media archiving I would say platform, because that's what we do now, but at the time it was really sort of a very, very bare bones demonstration that any part of it could work at all. And we found out very quickly that no one wanted to use that, but they wanted to build this platform, which is now what we do underneath it for their applications. So after, in hindsight, way too long, it took 13 or 14 times running into someone who really wanted this platform before we realized maybe we should do that, not the media archiving. What's interesting about the media archiving is it's what got Mark and Ilya interested in joining me to start any company whatsoever. And it got Ilya away from DeContes, another local startup, and it got Mark away from Oracle. The original idea that I was working on was just image for user-generated content, and Mark and Ilya were each working on video and audio user-generated content. So that was the idea that sort of pulled the three of us together, one business guy and two engineers, all tackling sort of the three stripes of, or the three forms of user-generated media. Even though the market told us very quickly to do something else, it is what pulled us all together and got CloudMine into the market. And I think that's actually one of the most important things for any startup is what gets you to the table. Usually the game plan changes, but you have to get to the table in the first place. Well, so Safeguard's local, so they have sort of unfair access to CloudMine. The members of the Safeguard family have seen us back all the way to when I was in grad school pitching this other idea, which by the way was not interesting to them at all. But they saw the evolution sort of myself and my co-founders as professionals and entrepreneurs, as well as the product from this B2C offering on top of an imaginary platform to us actually building that platform and growing to an enterprise-facing company. The easy one, obviously, is we're in Philly and they're in Philly, so that, like I said, the access, I call it unfair access because Silicon Valley investors obviously can't get coffee with CloudMine all that often, but it's also, there's a shared sort of vision for the region where all of us are interested in building the ecosystem and trying to fill in any missing gaps, and one of those gaps is having companies that are based here, be funded here, have a liquidity event that gives money back to the fund and to the entrepreneurs. And that's one of the things that we're very personally passionate about, and part of why we're excited that we do have investors locally is now the professional and the personal goals are sort of in alignment. We have the funding for operations, which the company needs, but we also are now one step towards that goal of creating more later stage, creating investors from our own company. Other big regions like Chicago, for example, they have Groupon, and that then created Lightspeed Ventures and a whole suite, probably dozens of angel investors. A lot of times in Philly that moves to New York, or that moves to Silicon Valley, or moves to DC. So being able to help try to bridge that gap and keep that reinforcement positively here is very exciting for us. So we did Dream It in fall of 2011. There's actually sort of a funny story about Dream It. People talk about taking calculated risks in business, and we have a very personal one for there. We actually applied, and by we, I applied to Dream It, and they didn't want to let us in without knowing that Mark and Ilya were on board. Mark didn't want to leave his job at Oracle until we were into Dream It, and so I of course told Dream It that Mark was on board, and we got into Dream It, and I told Mark, and he left his job and was on board. So that was definitely a risk, because it was approaching truth, maybe not quite truth at the time, and of course Mark was very excited, and we all sort of jumped in and quit whatever we were doing. I finished grad school, he left Oracle, Ilya left DeContes, and we started Dream It. So that was pretty exciting, and Mark likes to tease me about that, because it was sort of his introduction to how business really works. And so it was a good process. We spent the fall of 2011 building the platform, and we launched in October, right in the middle of the cycle. We started late August through the holiday. So right in the middle, we launched CloudMine as it is today, the sort of first version of CloudMine. And then we got our first funding sort of right after the holiday. So it was a nice kick into the market, and then some support personally and professionally into the start of our venture backing the next year, early 2012.